Honestly, it was a blessing in disguise because I was on the show, had my head go the size of a hot air balloon, came off the show and was like, oh, I really don't want to be that kind of, uh, whatever you want to call it, celebrity, public figure, whatever. Like, I just don't want to be that. And I
Right.
kind of looked back on some of the things after kind of taking a 30,000-foot view of the forest. I was like, oh my God, this forest is ugly. We don't want to be like that.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of Innersleeve, the podcast taking a behind-the-scenes look at all things music. I'm Cassius Morris, my co-host Joe Pacheco joining me as always. What's happening, Joe?
Doing good, man. Doing good. You? How's it going?
Doing good. Canada Day weekend, 4th of July for all of our American friends. So we hope you guys had an awesome holiday weekend wherever you're from. And listen, even if you're not celebrating, we still hope you had a good weekend. But exactly. Definitely anything fun happening on this past weekend for you, Joe?
A lot of R&R and a lot of catching up on around the, chores and stuff around the house here. But a good blend of, we had amazing weather here. I cannot complain. We had amazing weather. So it was, as soon as the weather is great, you just feel better, right? So you do more, you enjoy more. You?
We had rain for a bunch of straight days, and then the last day, I think, was Sunday where it let up. So, had a nice meal. We cooked, had a good time, ate outside and everything. So yeah, it's been pretty cool, and we're very happy to be back with an awesome episode of Innersleeve. This is episode number 81, guys. So just before we jump in, a huge thank you to you guys for getting us this far. We're past, I think, 27,000 subs now, Joe.
Yes, 27,000. What are we? I'm. Let me check.
We'll get the exact data here. We're pulling up the live
one of my
data,
75
folks,
tabs over here. Yes,
from our data center.
27,182.
Beautiful, and that's a whole bunch of awesome rock and roll faces out there. We're happy to have you guys on board. And just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button if you've been enjoying all of our content. We're also on social media at SoundMojo. That's TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Give us a follow, and we'll give you a shout out. If you give us a comment, we'll respond. We can't wait to hear from you guys over there. Today's guest on the show is none other than Fa'amu Sami, the intricate, interesting singer-songwriter.
Started very young, actress, musician, athlete,
You may know her from The Young and the Restless. If you guys like your soaps, I know my family always has. So, she's been on tons of different shows. So not only is this, an all-encompassing music conversation, as always, taking you guys, behind the inner sleeve and beyond into the deeper world of music, but we also talk about the world of acting a little bit and, the television side, which is always cool, I think, for us to hear about some different topics on the show. Hopping into some news in the world of music, some actual good news, Joe. This is encouraging. We've been reporting about dramas, deaths, tragedies a lot lately, and it's good to see something positive, especially for all of our young indie artists and creators out there. Now, this is huge. There's been a long fight going on, I guess, in multiple different courthouses and all over in Washington, D.C., trying to decide what the official rate of royalties is going to be for streaming services paying out to artists. So this isn't just indie artists. This is all artists. This includes Spotify, Google, and Amazon Music, who are fighting back against this. And what else can you tell us about this, Joe? Because this is interesting.
Well, it's interesting for sure because like you were saying, it's always an ongoing battle. So I'm not surprised that they're fighting back because, they're always fighting back, but
they have the resources.
Almost a 44% increase is almost half, right? It's almost half of what so that's always a good sign for artists, publishers, songwriters, for sure. We're always happy to report that, artists are getting their fair share. Just this little stat here, it was funny because revealed that labels soaked up 58% of streaming royalties in 2021. Wow. So let's hope that
I should get in the streaming business. Well, I don't know why I'm playing my drums and my guitar. No, but actually I think it's phenomenal. It's almost a funny concept thinking about the fact that we're allowing people to make half a percentage on what they made. It's like, okay, we're going to give this to you, but at the same time, Joe, we do need streaming services. We do need places to put this music, and it's not free to start these either. So, I mean, I think it's fair, but I think the big question about this.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go ahead.
I was just going to say it's people take for granted that like these servers, it takes like a place to store all this stuff, the ability to hire people to manage all this stuff and to make these great, like, look, Spotify's great, or Apple Music, it's convenient as hell. And so we have to, like I always say, you can't take the 100% of the pie, right? You have to give some, like they have to make their money, make their profits, and it's okay to make profits, but it's just like the scales are so tipped in the favor of the labels and these platforms, So I'm just glad to see this is finally starting to make sense. But I think this is mostly in the US, and also if we notice, Apple is missing in this. So I'm wondering if Apple, decided like.
I think they learned their lesson. Was it them with Taylor Swift, or was it Spotify that got a lashing?
It was Taylor Swift. It was Apple, but like, maybe they're like, hey, let's not listen. Because I mean, Apple is probably one of the biggest, richest companies on the planet. So it's like,
a little pathetic.
I doubt that the streaming is that huge for them in terms of like phones and computers and software.
But Amazon and Google too. The same could be said about them.
Oh, you got a good point.
They're all just a bunch of jerks. No, but right, no. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's it's funny that they're even worried about this, but I think it just goes to show how prominent streaming still is. Like you're saying, Joe, like they don't need this because they have billions from other things, but it's obviously big enough for a company like Amazon, and a company like Google that they're going to fight for it. I think the real question with this, though, is will this affect consumers? Will this actually involve a price hike up for the people who are buying this? Because when you think about it, shoplifting goes up, for example, in an area with stores, the prices get higher. Minimum wage, gets put higher. Companies adjust with the employees that they're hiring, and et cetera. Do you think that there'll be a ripple effect from this?
Yeah, I was going to say false claims on insurance. Everybody pays more insurance, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I mean, they're obviously good. Yeah, I have a feeling that we're, if they can't fight back, or it doesn't go through, or does whatever, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, already I think Spotify hiked up the price not too long ago, same as Netflix. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. But I mean, obviously they're always gonna. It's the consumer that pays at the end of the day.
Pop icon Ricky Martin has found himself in some hot water, $3 million of hot water to be exact, in the form of a lawsuit from his former manager. Now, the headline of this article has the manager claiming, quote, Martin completely and maliciously refused to pay. This is a pretty big claim that Ricky Martin's facing here, Joe.
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to bring this on the show is because we're so used to, from the 50s and the 40s and the 60s, always hearing about artists getting ripped off from managers or shady promoters or whatever. And this is like a case of someone, like, allegedly, like, we're not like, nothing has been settled here, but like fact that like hasn't paid the manager and like a $3 million sum, So I thought that was interesting,
It's crazy to see the fact that no matter how big you get, you would think that these guys have teams of people to keep them away from this. And the funny thing is they do, but it just goes to show that even when you have that many folks paid to sort of protect you and safeguard you and watch every little aspect, things can slide and spiral out of control. So we have a couple more quotes here showing specifics. So this is a quote saying Martin, quote, agreed to pay her a commission of 5% of all gross income generated from any and all projects that were procured, negotiated, or for which Rebecca, so I guess this is the manager's name, Rebecca, performed services during the term.
Yeah, and that's funny because what's interesting is that it's gross income. So it's not money that he's made after expenses. This is gross income. So, procured. So what she got you, what she's negotiated for you, So it's like, if she spent time negotiating, what you see over here at the bottom, $55,000 in commissions, Nescafe, these are all massive deals, right?
That's huge.
So even if it doesn't go through, or obviously it has to go through for him to get the money, but I mean, she has to get paid for just negotiating that, but it's off the gross. And then, in response, he begged, like, she put out a lot of fires here. It says, like her second stint as manager allegedly put out a multitude of fires in her client's personal life, seemingly all-encompassing nature of the gig, right?
Ooh.
So,
so she went above and beyond.
That's it, exactly. So now, like, she left, basically. It was like, it's not part of the gig or whatever, so she left. And he offered her 10% commission to come back, so it's, I don't know what to make of it. What do you think?
I think it's mostly fascinating when you go to the bottom and look at where she was making the most of her commissions. I mean, $200,000 in commissions from NFTs. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at it. But look, I mean, I think that this sounds pretty standard to me. You know, I think this is a common case that we probably don't hear about as much as it happens. I would think that for every Ricky Martin situation where it's being accused, at least, there's probably 5 other people who are just as famous as him who are going through the same stuff, but we may not have heard about it yet.
For sure, because the reason why we're hearing about this is because it's Ricky Martin. If it was just Rebecca Drucker, would anybody really care? If it just said something like manager, is suing artist for not being paid, next story, right? But because it draws all that extra attention. So you're right. I'm sure there's tons of unheard stories of even medium-sized bands ripping off their managers, or like, a lot of managers complained, like, as soon as they break the artist or the artist breaks, they've spent 10 years, the artist breaks, boom, they get dropped for a better, bigger, more powerful manager that can get them bigger and further, So, yeah, I mean, it's just as tough for managers as it is for artists, right?
It's just as tough. And, the funny thing is too about this is, you see that she got offered, from 5% commission to 10%. We saw what she was making with 5. So, I mean, this is a massive raise. And I think the thing with this and why we don't hear about it more often is I think most people would have just taken that and not said anything, not done a lawsuit, because I think in Hollywood especially, more money is more important than morals or how a person feels. But it sounds like this person, she couldn't be brought, bribed or bought, in any type of way.
Yeah, or she's comfortable. She's made enough of a living. She's like, I don't need the headaches.
She's definitely comfortable.
Yeah, because she doesn't need the headache. She's not here to put out your family fires or whatever the hell, she may have had to have done, So, yeah, she wants to book your gigs, book your next albums, your next tours. That's what it is.
Some exciting news from the world of hip-hop for all of our hip-hop heads out there. Multi-platinum rapper Logic, of course, I would say a modern-day new/old school legend for reviving the old school sound. He has just announced that he's coming out of his retirement, which just started back in 2020, Joe. So, I mean, this is one of the shortest lived retirements I think I've ever seen here.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, it's like he's in the rock territory, right?
Exactly. He's going to do the Retirement Sucks tour like Ozzy coming up pretty soon. But in 2020, he proclaimed his retirement, citing the fact that he had his wife and child to deal with. I believe he has had a divorce since, so he's been co-parenting. But it looks like he's ready to jump back into music, and for good reason, because he's just signed a brand new deal with BMG. So I would imagine a fairly lucrative deal.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the details yet, but... So, I mean, I've always heard of Logic, always heard his name, but not super familiar with him. So, like, did he leave long enough to be, like, forgotten? What do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, as we're seeing in the article as well, in 2017, the hit single, the 1-800 song with Alessia Cara and Khaled, I mean, they're citing 8 times platinum, received Grammy nominations. So, yeah, I mean, that was really big. So I think when you have a single like that, I think you can afford it. It's kind of like an Adele situation, I think, in the singing world. She made such an impact, such a mark, that she was in the rare position to take 5 years off. But the thing with Logic, too, is that he actually went on and decided to start a Twitch streaming career for his gaming. And he's made perhaps equal money through his gaming as he's made through his music, which is something that is actually not uncommon nowadays, Joe. I mean, T-Pain as well, he claims he's actually made more money from Twitch than he's ever made from music, which is, I mean, that's hard for me to believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, why would he lie, right? Or is it just...
Well, it's just hard to believe with T-Pain because of the amount of hits that a guy like that had.
True.
I mean, compared to maybe Logic, I could believe it. But it's definitely going to be cool to see how he comes back. Logic, always known for the rapid fire, fast bars, one of the best freestylers probably in music. And, I'm excited to see what he has. But he's also fallen into that category of a meme rapper where people sort of make fun of him. He's got the glasses. He doesn't have the traditional gangster type of look.
Yeah.
But I think that that's almost more in line with how it is today. I think rappers nowadays, they're more similar to people you would see on the street. I don't think they have to be tough. I don't think they have to pretend to be criminals anymore. And I think that's a good thing.
I'm kind of like excited about that because the same thing with rock, right? You used to have long hair, tattoos, and whatever, and you don't have that necessarily across the board anymore, right? Short hair, it's like it doesn't matter, you know. So yeah, I'm glad to see that that's happening in the hip hop world from my perspective, you know. Like it's not all about gangs, guns, money, and cars and whatever. You know?
Hopping over to SoundMojo on YouTube, over on our comms tab. Of course, here is where we post community tabs, posts, polls, different questions and fun things to hear what you guys are looking at in the world of music. And this girl, by the way, having a good old time, Joe. I will have whatever she's having if we're at the bar. I'll have what she's having.
Yeah, good old time. So yeah, the question was, did you ever see an opening, or have you ever gone to see a show where the opening act was a lot better than the main act, which is what you were going for? Like, have you ever gone to those shows?
I'm trying to think. I read some comments and I'll go through my catalog and try to come up with one.
All right. Well, okay. Here we had Shahid Shabazz, who I saw Ben Harper open for Dave Matthews Band. That would have been a good show. Got blown away. I left 4 songs into the Dave Matthews set, knowing I wasn't going to miss anything.
Wow. Okay.
That says a lot because
he was converted on the spot.
Yeah, because I remember at the time maybe that this was happening. Like Dave Matthews is one of the top grossing tours globally, like next to Celine and U2 and stuff. So those were good shows.
They're a huge live band, it seems like.
Yeah. Exactly.
This is an event.
We have the Nameless Gula. Thanks again for responding. I don't know if this counts since there were 2 headliners, Ghost and Volbeat. Yeah, okay, so it was a co-headlining tour. Ghost was amazing, and the reason I was there. Volbeat isn't bad, but I get annoyed when bands just keep the same pace and energy throughout the set. But Twin Temple, the opener for the US leg of the tour, that blew me away at the first song. So that's cool. Wow. I definitely got to check that out. I've never heard of Twin Temple, so that's definitely
Twin
cool.
Temple. That's a new name to me as well. I got to check that. And then Scott Cook, who's actually an Innersleeve alumni, gave us a comment.
Yes, and the SoundMojo artist. Yes, hey guys, I went to Burlington in '92, so it's a while back, to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers. 2 opening acts were Pearl Jam and the Smashing Pumpkins.
Woo, so that's a big lineup.
So I wrote, who? Never heard of them.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I meant to say. No.
Yeah, that's it. So
I love that.
Yeah, so thanks Scott for participating. But yeah, like for myself personally, I went to see. Yeah, exactly. I had this band. I think they're getting back together. They're called Dredge. DRE.
I've heard of that band.
DG, I think. Anyway, yeah, they were like, I was just over the moon with these guys because they were a good blend of progressive rock, melodic too, but like the albums were so well produced, the lyrics were brilliant, they were super creative, and I was really, really, really into this band. And they were playing here at Fouf's, Le Fofone Electrique, which is like a huge, not a huge place, but like you must play in this place, like many legendary artists have played in this.
It's like a rite of passage.
Yeah, exactly. So I went there, and the opener was RX Bandits. Had never heard of them. And like, not that I found they were better because I was still there for Dredge and I enjoyed the Dredge, but I was impressed was the place was jam-packed for the opener and then empty almost for the main act. So like
that's insane.
So I was like, wow, who is that band? I'm going to check out that band. And I did. And I thought they were cool, but it was like, that was a bit, I guess those people had the opener was better than the main act because they all left.
I used to hear about that with Kiss back in the day. Apparently when they would play, with Blue Oyster Cult, whatever, I mean, by the time the main event went on stage, the arena would be full of smoke, confetti. It looked like the concert just ended, and they would blow the headliners literally off the stage, I mean, with the explosive they used.
I have a personal like story of when I was young and, I was talking about my teens, I'm playing an open. We'd get the opening slot for some of the local bands that were a bit bigger. And man, I had that similar experience where when we played, we were doing covers, right? We were doing Metallica, Maiden, whatever was, we were into at the time. And we played
cover
like
band Joe, I like this.
With some of our original, but we played like 6-7 songs and that place was jammed. As soon as we finished for the main act that everybody came, that, whatever, the place was like 20 people left, and I was like, oh boy, I felt bad. I felt weird a bit, but it's life. So I've experienced that personally, which in my case ended up being a good thing.
I can also think of the time that I saw Rihanna with Travis Scott as the opener. And this was right when Travis was like, he had his first massive hit and he had a big cult following, but he was far from a household name. I mean, now he's done the Super Bowl, but back then he almost overshadowed her performance by telling everyone to get out of their seats and rush the barriers. He said, "Get out of your seats. We're making this a standing room." And he literally just said, basically, screw security. And look, we've seen how much trouble he can get into.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is that like...
But I saw that in person, and I actually ended up rushing to the front and just witnessing that. I remember watching it and watching the way he had the crowd, and I was like, we're going to be seeing this guy for a long time. So that was a big one. But I can't say it was better than Rihanna, because who doesn't want to stare at Rihanna? I mean, you know, most beautiful girl in the world. So Rihanna took the cake for me. This was a multiple choice question, and we were very curious to see if you guys were going to get this one. I mean, classic rock people mostly know it, but again, you guys like so many different genres of music, it's always fun to sort of throw these in. The guitarist known as Slowhand is who? And 72% said Eric Clapton. If you said that, you would be correct.
Yes. Yeah, we had 10% Jimmy Page, 12% Jeff Beck, and 6% BB King. But we only had one comment, and it was interesting, and we appreciate the honesty. I have no idea. Nicholas Hilton. I have no idea who any of these guys are. I just picked a random name.
We hope you picked Clapton, my friend.
There you go. So, for this one, we had, what's a song with an awesome bass groove? Like, I mean, there's so many of them, right?
So many, but I mean, we must have got a bunch of comments. Ken says, anything by Fishbone. Norwood Fisher is an awesome and versatile bass player. Plays everything from punk to funk and everything in between. So that's actually, I know Fish. I don't know Fishbone.
Well, Fishbone, I think they've been around, you know, since at least the 90s. I definitely always heard them. I've heard some stuff back in the day. I don't know, very familiar. But I remember the impression they left me with was serious musicians playing some pretty crazy music. That's what I remember, you know. So I probably wasn't ready for that kind of stuff at the time. I was still youngish, but I'm sure today if I listened to it, I'd be into it. We have Grinnin' Puerto Rican, For Whom the Bell Tolls. I mean, hey man.
Oh yeah. Live with Cliff Burton. That's enough said.
Exactly. Yeah. We have Beast Club 000. I've Got Something for You by David Rolfe. I'm not familiar with that. Are you familiar with that?
Okay. No, I don't know that one. I do know Primus, though, and I know Les Claypool. I mean, probably widely hailed as the best, maybe, or one of the best.
Must be.
He's up there.
Top. I mean, like, anybody who can play like that, sing like that, and at the same time, and, like, you know, just put out so much crazy music, literally. Like, I can listen. I have a couple albums, but there's only so much. I can't go for, like, too long, you know, like 3-4 songs, then I'm like, wow. I'm saturated. Have you ever dived into them, like Primus?
Not too much, but like I have a peripheral knowledge of them, and I know that people they're kind of like Dream Theater. Like their fans are they love them, and like they're just really into it, you know. So I mean, definitely, you know, hey, after today, I'm gonna have my playlist is gonna be full of new stuff now. Yeah,
if there's something you want to check out by them, which is not them, but it's them covering Pink Floyd's Animals.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, and they just did the Rush show as well, the Farewell to Kings.
Exactly. Brilliant. Definitely check it out. GameX Simmons, Flashlight by Parliament. For sure, and I'd say anything by Parliament. Funkadelic. It's all
founding
bass.
fathers, basically, right? For the bass.
Basically, exactly.
Pun intended.
Exactly.
Here we ask, who is your newly discovered artist or band that you have just gotten into? And we had a couple different answers for this one.
Yeah, we have not Donald Fagan, who's often on the channel. Thanks again for participating. Domi and JD Beck. These kids are heckling talented, jazz chops, hip hop, legit. So definitely gonna check that out.
I'm gonna be writing this all down.
The Nameless Gula again. Twin Temple, Satanic Duo, Doo-Wop. Satanic Doo-Wop. That's
Can't
awesome.
say I've heard that.
Thank you. It's funny, newly discovered. So this person, Gangsta Yoda, is either hilariously brilliant, funny, which makes sense, or super young, just discovered Metallica, which kudos to you.
Hopefully, honestly, I like to see that. If Metallica's new to you, I envy you.
Yeah, but you know, I think this may be due to Stranger Things, the last part. The guy's jamming like on top of a train or something, and like this crazy scene where he's jamming Master of Puppets, the riff. And just like they had the effect on Kate Bush's song 30 years later hitting the top 10, while Master of Puppets is now trending again on Spotify and all that stuff. So maybe
it's like the modern day Bohemian Rhapsody effect, you know?
The second life of Master of Puppets, which is one of my all-time favorite songs, favorite riffs, probably changed my life for sure musically.
Same here. My first metal song I ever heard.
I still jam it, man. I still jam that riff. It's still awesome. And we have here, which again, I don't know if it's higher or here. Thanks again. What is it? Elizaveta Azer. I don't know if that's two people or is that one?
Okay, yeah. I'd like to find that out, actually.
Let's check that out. Do a quick search here. Live, real time. No, it's one person. Elizaveta Azer or Azer. Definitely going to check that out too.
Okay.
See? We love it. Thank you for these new bands that we're listening to. Personally, I don't know if they're favorite. New to me would be the Strawberry Girls. That's an interesting little band.
I've heard. I think you might have mentioned them once.
Yeah, sure. It's like jam band kind of, but very interesting. Like I really enjoyed their album. That was cool.
I actually recently got into Lorde a little bit.
Lorde?
I've never really listened to Lorde. Yeah, she's definitely an interesting singer, and her lyrics are just so creative. I mean, she's like 23. She's my age, so like she definitely doesn't write from that perspective. She seems like she's wise beyond her years. So yeah, definitely an interesting artist that I'm just sort of delving into.
Yeah, it's true because like she is, and it's funny that you mentioned Lorde because what was it, 2013, 2014, that song, right? That massive,
Royals.
Massive hit, right? And I loved it because it was such a breath of fresh air for what was around at the time. So it had a cool vibe, and like it was all the harmonies. I'm a harmony junkie, so for those vocal harmonies, definitely. But I find like every time an artist has something like that just blows up, like I'd say abnormally, meaning like just like viral kind of,
It was insane. She was 19 or 18.
Yeah, but then it's so hard to follow up, man. And like I find like for me, Lorde is still around, still doing great music, but I find like a bit under the radar now because of it's hard to beat that song. But I always knew her as a super creative and interesting artist.
No doubt. So now we're going to hop into the interview portion of today's episode number 81 of Innersleeve. It's a pleasure to be joined by Fa'amu Sami on today's episode. Make sure to go check out her latest single, Chocolate Bae. We have a link in the description below. And of course, make sure to check in with her on all of her social accounts. We've made sure to include the links to those as well. We'll catch up with you guys right after the interview, and we hope you enjoy it.
Chocolate A, chocolate A, chocolate Bae, chocolate A, chocolate A, chocolate Bae, chocolate A, chocolate A, chocolate Bae, chocolate A, I got myself a chocolate Bae now.
Fa'amu Sami, welcome to Innersleeve on SoundMojo.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
Welcome to the show. Now, this is awesome because, I've been looking at your visuals. I've been looking at your TikTok. It seems like there's a bunch of cool, fun stuff going on right now in the world of Fa'amu.
Yeah, definitely. Always. We like to keep it interesting over here.
Always got to keep it interesting. So, I mean, maybe let's take it back, to the beginning. I mean, starting off sort of more so in the acting world. I'm sort of curious about your roots in all this. Was singing and music something that you've always had a passion for, or was it something that you came into sort of from more of the acting side?
I'd actually all started with singing when I was younger. So my parents tell me I was singing all the time, and they wanted me to be able to explore that. So they asked if I wanted to go into voice lessons, and I did. And the place where I took the voice lessons was a performing arts studio. So they also did like musical theater, and it took a while, but my voice coach, she was like, okay, I really just want you to try a play or a project. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And then I ended up falling in love with acting as well. But nice. It is funny because it all kind of started with singing, but the industry is very hard to get into. So I was kind of like, okay, whatever takes off first, and then everything else can be supported that way.
Do you think that's more common in the business, that people sort of maybe start thinking they're going to go in one direction and maybe they end up in a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, I'd hope so. I think, in the type of work that we do, I don't think you can be stuck, in one, or narrow-minded by any means. I think you kind of have to take every opportunity that's given to you and use all of your skill set to make it happen.
What made you decide to like focus on the music side now?
I think because my family and my friends and my boyfriend, everybody knew how much I wanted to share it. Just maybe it came more I don't know. I think there was a little insecurity that came with it of like, oh my God, if I release music, whatever. And I think just kind of the encouragement and the, support I was finally like, okay, because I wrote Chocolate Bae 5 years ago. And then the song I'm recording next week, like I wrote that like 6 or 7 years ago. So,
wow.
Yeah. So we're kind of coming out with older stuff, but I also like to write stuff that I think is timeless. So yeah.
So was that, I mean, due to the sort of being a little bit self-conscious, or were there other elements that led to this being 5 years down the line after you wrote it?
Yeah. I think it was mostly being self-conscious. I think that there's a certain level of vulnerability that comes with releasing music that you don't have. I mean, there's a lot of vulnerability in acting, but nobody knows where it comes from. Music, it's like written down where it's coming from.
Right. Straight from the source.
Yeah, straight from the source. No beating around the bush. So I think that was it was that. And then the song was also a little it's a little controversial. So I think I was a little hesitant there as well. But then, I kind of got to a point where I was like, fuck it, whatever. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
So your family really helped you with that, and they sort of talked you through that process, it sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. They were like, you know what, we got you. And that's that.
It sounds like they were always supportive really from the beginning, because they were taking you to lessons, signing you up for stuff. So it was never like you had to convince them to support your work.
Yeah, no, never. I think, no, my parents have always been extremely supportive. I mean, unreal supportive.
Nice.
I got so blessed. With them, when I came out here and I kind of heard about, there are a lot of my friends whose parents don't fully support what they're doing. And that was so new for me, just because my family had never made me feel like it was, that my dad works really hard and my mom works really hard to make sure that I'm able to do this and not have as many obstacles, I think. So I'm forever grateful for them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you're originally from Maine, correct?
Yes.
So what was the sort of entertainment scene like in Maine, and maybe the music scene at that time? Or was it something where you were branching out to New York and different places to even sort of dabble in it?
Yeah, definitely branching out to things, places like New York. Like I said, there was the performance, I can't even think of the name, the performance center or whatever. Right. There was that, but beyond that, there wasn't too much. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So New York, I mean, was it one of those things where you were hitting the ground sort of looking for like street signs, like posters advertising classes? I mean, where did you hear about these classes and how did you get involved?
Yeah. So when I started branching out to New York, I was doing a lot of background work. So I was like the extra person, the movie would be going on. I'd be the person in the theater in like the way back left corner who you like wouldn't even see type of thing. And my mom and my aunt actually submitted me for a lot of those and was helping me kind of find it. And as I got more of that under my belt, I think that was to make sure I wanted to do it. And then as I did that, my uncle who lives out here set up meetings with managers and agents. And then that's when I like made my big move to Los Angeles because they wanted to sign me, but they were like, if you're still living in Maine, then we're not going to sign you. But if you move out here, then we'll sign you. So it was a little bit of a risk, but I was like, fuck it, I'm all in.
Yeah. No, I mean, you have to sort of put yourself out there and really take that jump. I mean, do you still use a lot of the classic training that you had from those days in what you're doing now? Or, I mean, is it something that's quite different?
I would say as far as singing, I used everything that that I learned from my voice coach. I swear by her. Her name's Rebecca Beck for anyone. Like nice. I swear by her. To this day, living in LA, I mean, I've worked with some good voice coaches, but no one holds a candle to her. I tell her all the time, like, you need to come to LA because you're crazy. She's so good. As far as acting goes, no, I think honestly, I've kind of adopted the Woody Allen method where you just show up and you be you and you kind of, I find when I over rehearse is when, or I overthink a project or I'm really like, some people have to dissect a character. I don't. I'm just like, whatever hits me, and that's what we're gonna go with, and that's
more of a vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that makes sense for sure. I mean, it's interesting how much of it seems to cross over, though, you know, like something that you could have been taught for maybe projecting for acting, you could use for singing. It seems to be a lot of crossover.
Right. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's actually a really good point. Yeah.
It's interesting to think about.
What makes your vocal coach so special compared to others?
I think because she teaches technique at such a young age, and I deal very, very well with people who are, you know, no bullshit. And she, you know, when I'm 10 and I'm not listening, she doesn't care. You know, she doesn't go to my mom, oh, well, she's 10, you know, she'll grow out of it. No, it's like, she's 10, she can do it, get her to do it, you know?
Right.
I think that it was, I like that about her, and the technique that she uses and kind of, you know, teaching you how to breathe. And I'm a very visual person. So, you know, when I can't hit a note, she's like, I want you to imagine that the note you think you can hit is here, and we're trying to go here, you know, just like a step above. And she's like, you can do that so hard. And then she like, we literally used to do these like these exercises where she'd like, I would literally point and send the note. Because I also used to be a little quiet. So she'd be like, I want you to send it all the way over there, you know, and we'd play catch with the notes, you know, things like that. So I don't know. She's very creative, and it worked really well for me. So.
Right. Have those techniques helped you like obviously in recording, but like live as well? Because the live situation is...
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I've sang live. That was probably when I was still living in Maine. But, you know, when I do perform, you know, for self-tapes or auditions and stuff, yeah, 100%.
Do you find it hard to do a lot of auditions from home? Because that's one thing I heard is quite different from actually going in and being there in person.
Yeah, I think the downside of it is the casting director doesn't get your full vibe, you know? But I go to a self-tape studio. I actually don't do mine at home. God love my boyfriend. He has short span of like patience with me when I'm doing my auditions. He's like, all right, you got like 15 minutes. And so I think, but also that, you know, the self-tape studio, they also bring in, you know, actors and other people who do it professionally are able to coach you. But my self-tape studio is my happy place. So I actually don't mind it, just because I love going in there and having that space, and it's not stressful. But I do think, you know, that you do lose that kind of connection with the casting director, so that they get to know who you are, and you have to literally make them see that in a 5-second slate, which is very difficult.
Yeah. Super big challenge. So, I mean, what was the biggest difference for you jumping into, you know, full-time acting? Obviously, Young and the Restless, you know, 3-year run. What exactly was that experience like for you, you know, coming from, you know, smaller roles, background roles?
Yeah. My head grew the size of a hot air balloon.
There you go. At least you're honest.
Yeah. I think, but honestly, it was a blessing in disguise, because I was on the show, had my head grow the size of a hot air balloon, came off the show, and was like, oh, I really don't want to be that kind of, you know, whatever you want to call it, celebrity, public figure, you know, whatever. Like, I just don't want to be that. And I kind of looked back on some of the things after kind of taking a 30,000-foot view of the forest. I was like, oh my God, this forest is ugly. We don't want to be like that.
Right. So it was a moment of reflection, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. And I think because, you know, COVID did hit, and I wasn't able to book for up until about a week or two ago. I wasn't able to book up until then.
Wow.
coming off the show. So I think it was a huge time of reflection of like, okay, everything God gives you is a huge blessing, and we need to be grateful for that and not take advantage of it. And I think that had my roles just kept coming and coming and coming, I probably would have become somebody that, you know, little Lexie back in Maine would have been like, bitch, what are you doing?
Interesting. Okay. So, but it took stepping out of the environment to really even have that thought process.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, life has a knack for teaching us real time what's going on, you know?
Yes,
right? the new single Chocolate Bae is released under the name Fa'amu, obviously. Just curious, that's not the name that you've been known for your entire career. What exactly went into forming that persona and sort of character, if you will?
Yeah. So I guess I talked about it with my team and my family, and I didn't want acting and singing to kind of become combined. I wanted them to be two separate things, because I feel like Fa'amu Sami and Lexie Stevenson are not two different people, but two different vibes. And I wanted to have more fun and freedom with Fa'amu Sami when I want to. And the name actually came from my dad. He's been calling me that since I was probably 7, and I started I swam competitively up until I moved out here, actually. And then and I also sailed like sailboats. I sailed competitively as well. So
you did a lot of sports, from what I read.
Yeah. And all water sports. And
that's cool.
And Fa'amu Sami means to burn the water. So I was just
love it. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, not for, just seeing what you've accomplished already at such a young age. I mean, like what's like for the future? What are you looking to, what are your goals or objectives for, let's say, Fa'amu Sami?
Yeah, as far as music goes, I'm trying to get this next single out, and then I would like to come out with an album is my goal.
Nice.
I did just book a movie, which is awesome. So
Congrats.
That goal might get pushed a little further in the future, but
understandable.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's, there's also a lot of downtime with acting where you're just like in a trailer doing absolutely nothing, waiting. So I'll have time to write then.
Lots of time to write, maybe even record.
Yeah, exactly. We'll turn the trailer into a recording.
That was bringing me up to my next question. How do you write? Like, when you say write, what does that entail?
So a lot of the time I get inspired in spurts. I'm an emotional person, but not in a bad way, I would say. Like, I think I would get very, very strong spurts of emotion when that happens. I'm like, okay, like I need to write. And then the song just kind of comes out. It's not like it's, a switch where I'm like, okay, I have to write today at 1 p.m. for an hour. Like nothing will come out. I won't do anything.
Yeah. Well, I've heard a lot that when people sit down and try to actually structure it like that, it doesn't work. So for you, it's more natural inspiration.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Do you also perform any instruments?
So I used to play the clarinet, which is so weird. And probably still could. I guess I don't have any interest, but I'm learning how to play the guitar now. I have this beautiful one that I bought. It's I'm staring at it. That's what I'm looking at. But,
nice.
Yeah, I just bought that one. It's got little birds.
What's the experience like for guitar?
It's hard. It is hard, but I know I have it in me. My dad and all of his brothers play guitar. They are all, maybe not so much singers, but they all are very musical with instruments and stuff. So I'm I know it's in there.
Yeah, the thing with guitar, it's because I played guitar at a young age as well, and clarinet as well, which is interesting.
Oh, awesome.
But guitar, I forgot how difficult it was. Then when I started to show some people, and it'd be like, well, why do these people give up for so easily? And I realized, oh my God, it's really hard. I didn't realize it,
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Right now I'm taking a small break because I got my nails done, and I haven't had my nails done in months because of it, because you just can't. But I'm trying. So,
you're trying. That's all that matters. Back in your earlier days, I'm wondering, because you were, performing in sports on a pretty high level, bronze medals, etc. Was there ever a thought of maybe pursuing that path, and maybe, could you see yourself maybe doing something athletic if you weren't in entertainment?
Yeah, 100%. I think if my heart had been in it, probably I definitely considered it. But I think it was just one of those things where it's okay, I'm kind of good at it, but I don't want to do it. Okay. It was one of those situations, but it was a conversation I had with my family. Yeah. And it kind of went, hey, do you want to do this? And I was like, fuck no.
Yeah. Well, I guess you got to know, right? You got to know exactly which direction you're headed.
Yeah, exactly.
So how about your recordings and in terms of the album that you want to do and even for Chocolate Bae, where exactly are you taping this? Is this a home studio situation? Are you going to a remote studio?
Yeah, so so there are two studios that I really like. And I honestly just kind of follow my friend Uriah. He's producing most of what's going to be on my album. But I record everything with him, and then
Nice.
but I just kind of follow him and his guidance because I'm a singer, so I'm very new to the, kind of the technicals of music, whereas because acting took off first, so I'm more like knowledgeable about that situation as opposed to music. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing with music, when you're acting and you're doing stuff with a big set, there's a lot of crew involved. Whereas with music today, you're most likely by yourself or one other person. So you have no choice to sort of know a bit of what's going on. What are the main topics that you enjoy writing in your songs?
Honestly, kind of whatever hits me. I would say relationships, but like I literally just wrote one about my grandmother passed away a few weeks ago, and I literally just wrote one about her like 3 days ago. So it's kind of just whatever's there. I'm trying to think, what else have I written about? I've written about like my girlfriend group, like my group of girlfriends. I've written about really horrible relationships. I've written about, the best relationships, hence Chocolate Bae. I've written about, I don't know. It just kind of depends. Like, I don't know. It just depends on what's inspiring me, but probably relationships, which is so freaking typical, but whatever.
Hey, it's the age-old inspiration, right? For authors, music. I mean, it's never going to end, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, it will not.
I'm curious about also you're the youngest woman on the advisory board for the Endometriosis Foundation of America. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes, you did.
Just curious if you want to talk about any of your work there and sort of how you got started with that.
Yeah, of course. So I guess how I got started was I wrote a blog post while I was on Young and the Restless, just because I don't know why. I was in the hospital for a few weeks and a bunch of fans were asking me. So I was like, instead, I'm just going to write a blog post about it. Right. And I did. And then the Endometriosis Foundation of America reached out and they said, would you like to come to our charity event, the Blossom Ball? So I was like, oh yeah, I'd never heard about the Endometriosis Foundation of America. I was totally clueless. I just thought I was like the only person in the world with it. But, and then I ended up going to the Blossom Ball, and I didn't realize how crazy it was. I met Hailey Bieber. I met her sister. I spoke with her sister. Jamie Foxx's daughter, Corinne Fox, met with her. I mean, it was crazy. And then, of course, a bunch of other influential people, but it was just kind of wild because I was like, oh my God, all of these women who I look up to have endometriosis. And then, now being able to work with them is friggin' insane. Like,
that's huge.
It's really big, but it's very cool that we all kind of get to use our position and be able to help other people and hopefully reduce their diagnosis time, like from the time that they're feeling crappy to the time they get diagnosed, hopefully reducing that and getting help quicker. Yeah.
That's a great thing. One other thing I wanted to know was, you talk about your influences, Childish Gambino, Doja Cat, Ella Mai. I'm just curious, how exactly do you draw from these influences? And when you're drawing from your influences, is that a conscious thought process or is it something that you're not thinking about as much consciously?
I think when I draw inspiration, it just kind of like happens. I don't know. As far as Doja Cat, a lot of time, if I need to write something and I'm like, okay, we're at a writer's block. We've spent too much time on this shit. Like we need to get some inspiration. I'll put on some Doja Cat for like 15 minutes and I'm good.
And you're back.
Like if I really need to make it happen, like, I'll do that just because I think, in some of her songs, you literally are like, what the fuck is she talking about? And then it just gives you confidence to be, whatever, who cares? Like, I'll just write whatever I want. And then Ella Mai, definitely her sound. I just think she's insanely talented. And then Childish Gambino is funny as hell. And he kind of has those two different personas and kills it at both of them. So yeah.
I think it's safe to say like Childish and then the Doja Cat, like there's no rules, right? They make you realize that there's no real rules. Just do what you're gonna do it the best you can do, and if it's honest enough, I mean, it'll come across. I'm curious as to, like, since you're obviously more familiar with the film industry and TV stuff, but like, what's something that surprised you about the music industry?
That's a really good question. I would say producers are an alien to me. I don't know. Like, that's all.
Another planet.
A whole other planet. I see my friend, the guy who produced Chocolate Bae, his name is Carson. He's also a dear friend of mine. And when he was making it, I was like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, it's really crazy. I think that surprised me because there's all these buttons and little things they're doing with their hands all over this ginormous board that's like 4 of me. And I'm like, I don't get, I'll just be over here in the booth. You let me know when you're ready.
Let me know.
I'm ready to go,
It's true. It's a whole nother world. It's insane.
Yeah, what they see is definitely not what I see. And even my friend Uriah, who's helping me with the album, I'll see him, I don't even know. And he'll ask me little questions and I'm like, dude, I need you to explain that to me. Like, I am a toddler.
That's why you're here, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the new single Chocolate Bae is out now. I mean, what else can people expect? And maybe is there a timeline for the new record, or is that something that we're just sort of thinking about?
Yeah, the new one will be out before the end of summer for sure.
Nice.
And then as far as I would like for an album to be out at the end of the summer, but I don't know, I might be being a little ambitious there, but, yeah, that's where I'm at with the music stuff. Yeah. So that'll be coming soon.
Awesome. Fa'amu Sami, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Chocolate Bae, Chocolate Bae, I got myself a Chocolate Bae now.
We want to give a huge shout out to Fa'amu Sami for joining us on this brand new episode of Innersleeve. I got to tell you, Joe, really interesting talking with her about the sort of similarities between the acting and music world. Because, I mean, this is, I think, the second guest in the last couple episodes we've had who grew up in theater. And, I mean, it's cool to hear the fact that they take so many of those rudimentary trainings that you would think only apply to, like, singing Romeo songs and all this stuff, Shakespeare, but they're applying it to what they're doing now.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, like, it's arts, right? So, I mean, it's not like drawing, the difference, the drawing and creating music. But I mean, like, just like drawing and photography is similar, but same thing.
It's hand in hand.
Projecting, getting the message across. I found, like, I've never done acting, but when I've tried to act on camera or something, I find it so hard, man. It's
one of the hardest, things in entertainment, I think. And it's funny because it's, the people who are good at it make it look so easy. I mean, at least when you look at Jimmy Page or you look at, like Les Claypool shredding, it doesn't look like it's easy to do. Yes, they make it look easy for them, but it's not like I look at it and say, okay, I could easily do this. But for some reason with acting, it seems so natural and everybody talks to one another. We all interact. People think they can do it, but you're right. You got to have a respect for it. And also I think it's rare that someone can really cross from that world into music and really have sort of stable footing in both. I mean, she had a, very steady career with Young and the Restless and different shows and now sort of seamlessly trying to transition.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not everybody that gets to do it or, is successful at it. But, it's like, however, as long as she's happy doing it, as long as she's like, doing her best. And like, she seems to obviously have a uber supportive family because they've been supporting her the whole time, through acting, through singing and stuff. One thing that I found funny, one of my takeaways was how she was on the Young and the Restless for like 3 seasons or 3 years. And like, she said she had a air balloon sized ego because like, I'm on TV, I'm on this. And then quickly learned and was humbled the fact that like, as soon as like she was not on the show anymore, the calls don't come in, that this doesn't happen, you know what I mean? So she learned to like, appreciate what you got when you have it,
It's a good lesson for artists as well. You know, I've seen the expression, be humble because tables can turn quickly. And, you know, it's true. I mean, look at guys like Young Thug and Gunna. You know, a couple months ago, they were sleeping in $1 million mansions with millions in the bank. Now they're sleeping on a metal sheet. So it's like, you know, you never know what is going to happen, what's going to come. And, you know, just remain humble and enjoy the processes. I know it's the corniest thing, but guess what? Corn sticks around because it is accurate. And I think, you know, cliches, corny statements, these are all true. Enjoy the process.
Yeah, I know. Life, like I've seen it in my everyday. You know, I'm getting happy because, you know, I'm accomplishing this and we're finishing this, and then it's like something hits you and you're like, oh man, come back down to earth. You know, because like life just has a way of humbling you. You know, like
no doubt. Life is a comedian, and it will play its little tricks. But we appreciate you guys checking in with us, and thank you again to Fa'amu for giving us some of her time and insight on her work. If you guys enjoyed what she had to say or her music, make sure to go follow her. Check her out on social media. We have all the links you need in the description below to follow Fa'amu and also to follow SoundMojo. We're on all social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We have awesome content almost every single day, pretty much every single day, whether it's on YouTube or on socials. That includes SoundMojo artists, music videos on this day in music, and of course the SoundMojo Comms tab. If you want to be featured in the next episode of the show, drop us a comment and you might just see your name and avatar pop it up on the screen.
Yeah, man, let's hope.
Also, after checking in with our comms tab, make sure to hit that subscribe button on SoundMojo. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers, Joe. It's exciting. Yeah, and we definitely hope you guys are going to jump in and help us out with that. And stay tuned for much, much more fun content coming down the pipe. We are just getting started. Thanks so much for checking in with episode number 81 of Innersleeve. We'll catch you guys next week.